Okay, welcome to another episode of Revelry Podcast. So today we have our very special guest, Koflow, in here. So for those of us that don't know who you are, can you give us a short introduction about who you are?
Wow. do this all my life. I thought I didn't have to do this anymore. I'm Koflow. I've been DJing for 24 years, 25 years. Ex-DMC champ, 2003. I don't know what else I won, a bunch of other stuff. Turntablist by trade, DJ, music producer. And now I own a bar and restaurant called Honcho. That's it. Yeah.
So maybe we can look at the early days first, started from the early days. I think a lot of people do not know this about Koflow, right? That he started DJing at your mom's shop or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you were playing cha-cha music,
Yeah.
disco music, you know. So
Yes.
how did you like pick that up in the first place? Is it because it was the music available at the time or what?
Okay, let's try to cut the story short. So basically, I turned 18. I was a delinquent. All I wanted to do, was skateboarding, and that's all. And during that point, skateboarding was my liberation, my outlet. You know, like and when you watch skate video, it's all like hip hop music, right? And during the 94, 95. It was a period where it's all about Malaysia Cup. It's like the soccer player were like the god of Singapore, right? And what it was I didn't have money to watch football, you know, but the National Stadium was like very close to my house, and all I hear was like, wow, it's all roaring and stuff like that, right? So I found a job where I sell curry puff, popiah, and Milo at the National Stadium.
Wow, real humble
Hustling,
beginnings.
man.
Yeah, humble beginnings.
So I go in, walk around, and at the same time I was watching like Fandi Ahmad, Sundram, and stuff like that. And at that point I didn't study. I didn't like to study, and that kind of inspired me because like I felt like, you know, it's throughout my whole life, the whole generation of people was telling you got to study hard to be who you are, you know, blah blah. But then I look at this soccer player, I was like, man, they're just doing what they love, right? And they represented Singapore. People respected them. People gave them a high level of idealism in a way, right? So then, of course, I turned 18, and then my mom was like, come work for me. I was like, okay, well, what else do I have to do, right? Before I go in NS. So I went to work for her, and then I was basically a karaoke jockey. So if you don't know, today's technology in karaoke, it's the TV is right in front of you. You click and you choose the number on like a little screen, and then automatically you play. So back then it wasn't like that. It was like there was many rooms. There was like 9 or 10 rooms, right? So I was in this small tiny room with a little device that has the number. The number is when they key in the number of the song they want to they sing, and I have to go and trace the number according to which laser disc that I'm supposed to play. So laser disc, I'll pick it up and I'll put room number 1, and then I click the track number, and then it transmit to their room, and then they sync, right? So it was kind of boring job lah. It was literally like one person in that room for like 5-6 hours, right? And then one day my mom was like, hey, business is not doing very well. I can't afford to pay for a part-time DJ. Can you learn how to DJ? So I learned how to DJ, and at that point I was using this Denon CDJ. It was the first CDJ that was introduced at that point. Right now, CDs have like, jog wheels and stuff like that. Back then, we only have one tiny like little jog wheel, and then you put your CD in, choose the track number, and you play. Or you can cue, I think. Yeah. So that wasn't really my thing because I was playing cha-cha music. It was like auntie and uncle with beehive hair and, like batik shirt and,
Like the Pachukang, that kind of thing.
I was doing that for a little while, and of course, I was a teenager who listens to hip hop music, right? Then there was always broken turntables. You know, it was just when the era of change came, and I think they didn't know what to do. The turntables, just chuck it at the corner, and at the back, I opened up this trunk, and there were a lot of records. I didn't know what to do with records, no idea. Then one day I was skating with DJ Reeds. I was skating with him. Police came. We ran.
Oh, police and thieves, throwback to the days, man.
Then I went there, and then I went to his house, and then we were hiding at his house, and then he started to go into his bedroom, and then turn on the turntable, and he started scratching. I was like, "Hey, I'm also a DJ," you know. but I was playing, like not how they did, you know. Then I tried, and I was like, "Hey, this is what I can do," and then. I got super excited. I ran back to the console and I saw the turntable. I'm like, does this work? No, it's not working anymore. So I asked my mom, like, can I have it? She's like, you can have it. And then, but it's just, I didn't know how to work it. And then at some point, I think DJ Ritz told me, like, hey, I have this friend who's gonna get married and he wants to sell his turntable. I was like, oh, that's dope. I'll do it and I'll buy it. I think at that point I bought it at like $1,300.
Wow, huge, expensive, man.
So I had to like borrow money here and there, for my mom, and then purchased it. And I remember the day when I got it. I brought it back home, set it up, super excited. But then I realized I don't have speakers, I don't have RCA cables. So I called Ritz out. Yeah, and then, I called Ritz up and I was like, hey, what do I do? It's like, oh, just go buy a pair of cheap speakers and mini combos, like hi-fi mini combos. I think what I did was I went to Sungai Road because I think that was the cheapest way and the fastest way to get second-hand equipment, right?
Was there like Sim Lim Square or Sim Lim Tower back then?
Yeah, back then there was, but they were all selling first-hand, right? So I have to go to Sungai Road. Sungai Road is like a thief market. You go there, you can find everything that you need, right? So I went there, I bought...
Carousel before it was cool, eh?
Yeah, so I went there, I bought a mini combo, we call it back then. Brought it back home, RCA cable, patch it up, go on the aux, and then there you go. I started scratching and just from there, yeah.
So from there, you like incorporated the music that you always loved as a teen, which is hip hop lah. Mm-hmm. So when you are at your mom's shop, right, do you like kind of like revolutionize the playlist? Do you try to insert your own hip hop?
No, I cannot.
Cannot, right?
Nobody would have gotten it.
Yeah.
And then like usually I'll play cha-cha for like a good, I don't know, an hour or so, and then towards the end of the night, that was the time where Sandstorm was big, Blue was big, so we have to incorporate a little bit of that, and yeah, that's really about it.
Then who gave you your first like hip hop gig, which is the gig that you say like you like to play lah?
Oh, back then wasn't like that. There was only one hip hop club, or two hip hop club actually, Future and Roots. But before you get to play, you gotta collect enough records, and there's no way you have enough records, right? As a kid, then all I did was DJ battles. I battle and battle and battle until, I get to some point, I can put up a 1 hour set together with records. Then that's where I started DJing. But that was like 2 or 3 years later after, because records are not cheap. Records are like $20+, each, right? And I was in NS, and my needles keep breaking because I was scratching so much. And every time you get your paycheck, you're like, oh, I gotta put this aside for transportation. Then after that, I'm like, okay, do I buy records or do I buy needles? you have to prioritize.
By the time $20 for vinyl expensive, yeah.
And for records, you have to buy multiple copies because you have to beat juggle and there's wear and tear also.
Yeah.
So one record buy 4.
Wow.
Yeah. So usually what people do is that they buy a certain record, right, and then they start to juggle with it, and then they decided, oh, this is the record I'm going to use as a routine for a DMC. then you need to buy more of the same copy because what it is that the record wears down. And then you get that static sound, right? Which the sound quality is not very optimal when you're battling. And also, when it wears down and it goes thin, it tends to skip a little bit more. So those are all issues that we faced when we were younger. When you're coming out as a analog equipment, right? But the good thing about records that I think which I constantly talk about is that today you have technology, right? You have laptop, you have your Ableton. Anytime you come to a point where it's a dead end, you just decide to, okay, you know what? I can go on my Ableton, I'll re-edit it, and I'll cut to another point of the record, or I'll cut to another song or whatsoever, right? So it's like an easy way out for us, right? So back then, I don't have that luxury. We have 2 records right in front of you. You come to a dead end, either you make it work or you make it work. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So you end up learning a lot more tricks, right? Because instead of skipping it and like, it's okay, skip it, find the next record, and then, do the same thing over and over again, which is not what it is back then. It's like you tend to like expand your dictionary of or pockets of tricks that you can use, right?
Which is what you say that when one song about to end, right, you have to make it work, and then you have the same copy of another song, and that's how I guess it gave rise to break dancing, break DJing, where they loop a break and
Yeah.
then it all happened. So tell us also a little bit more about yourself as a DJ for dancers also.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So, for dancers, it's a bit more simpler than turntablism, right? So for dancers, it's never about you. It's always about the person at the dance floor, and finding the tricky part. It's finding the right breaks that people can dance to, right? I think this is something that it's strangely that a lot of DJs don't actually know how to dance. Right? I don't dance, but there's 3 things that you dance to, right? So A is the groove, which is the beats, right? B is the lyrics. Yeah, that's why you have lyrical dance. You dance to the lyrics, right? And then 3, you dance to the melody, right? So in terms of breaks, okay, so before it comes to breaks, the lyrics and the melody, when you are breaking, you are, how do you say, you have to follow the lyrics, you have to follow the melody to make it look nice, right? But when it comes to the groove, you are freestyling on top of it. You are the musical instrument on top of the groove. So you can really freestyle and open up your mind and do whatever, and the beat will complement to your imagination. You know what I mean? So that's what is so important. That's the important factor. And finding the right break to play, it's all about that very simplified bass line and that groove, and which is the most important part and the essential part of breaking.
Is it like, so, like when you say about this, right? Last time, equipment seems like a bit more primitive, right? But do you think like at that point in time, like it forced a lot of creativity out of a lot of the DJs or not?
Oh, definitely, way more. I mean, we don't have cue points. We can only wish that, wow, we have cue points, we can jump to this point or not. But you have to find ways to make that work. And that's why back then, DJing, there's always a lot of wow factor. Because think about it this way, right? Is that back then, when you do that, a normal person, right, can instantly understand what's going on, right? But today, with all the buttons and everything else, right, it came to a point where audience don't really know what you're doing, right? So although a experienced person can tell like, oh, wow, this is cool, but the real audience, they don't get it. You know what I mean? Like when I beat juggle now, I jump from point to point to get a snare, to get a little vocal chop, and when I juggle and I press cue point, people, they don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? But back then, with just one record, they know the song, and however you dissect the song, they will get it, right? Yeah.
So from there, you took it to the next level by joining DMC. Is that like a kind of like a rite of passage for DJs back then? Because right now, clearly you don't need DMC, you don't really need technical skills.
Yeah. So I think joining DMC is like the holy grail back then. It's the Olympics, right? So like I said, going back into going to the national stadium, representing your country, looking at all these soccer players, and this is my one way that I can do something and represent my country, right? So DMC was one of it, and when we did it back then, it was many hours of hard work because understanding musicality was something that I don't have back then. It's all about technical skill, just like most scratch DJs that come out today who don't listen to music or well, maybe not, but who doesn't know how to play a musical instrument. All they do is all technicality, but they don't understand the musicality behind it. You get what I mean? So those were tough because I have to learn the hard way, right? And by joining DMC is your best word of mouth because that's where people start taking notice. Oh, this person is dope. And only by then, when you win it, then the magazines will write about you. If not, nobody writes about you. It's not like today, right? Back then, you have to find many of this competition to create a brand, to create marketing, to create awareness for yourself. But today, with IG, with TikTok, you don't really need to, right? So that's the difference. Yeah.
So like talking about Red Bull 3 Styles, right, and DMC lah. So can we say that they are like obsolete or phased out in today's DJing market?
I don't believe it's obsolete. I believe it's a cycle. Right now, I think, coming off the pandemic, everybody just want to party. Everybody wants to be a DJ, right? And honestly, you'll come to a point again where these DJs have kind of matured and they're looking for the next thing to do. Then the next competition will come up again because that's where, bear in mind, again, today, technology and internet, everybody downloads the same song. But how do you play it differently? How can people identify you as like, wow, this person is a dope DJ, right? Besides your track selection. But because honestly, if you talk about track selection, if I pre-select 20 songs and I give it to anyone, they can play the same thing as well, right? But then a really experienced DJ will not only play these 20 songs, they will find things that people don't really have never heard, but people can still vibe to it, right? So that's the difference. But when it comes to technical skill, it's still somewhat relevant in this industry because as long as jazz is relevant, turntablism will be relevant, but maybe not in a very commercial or big scale.
I like how you say that everybody have access to all the same songs. Now, especially true with Beat Source, with Tidal, with streaming. So now you can DJ while you stream the tracks. So you literally have a whole arsenal of tracks, right? And it's really like how you play it, how you can differentiate yourself. That's why there's the rise of like people like James Hype, like Fred again. Everybody's like more into the live elements kind of stuff. Yeah.
I think they bring back the whole, last time when turntablism was a thing, then the whole live element, everything, like James Hype and the rest of them, they try to bring that back lah.
So I guess maybe turntablism might not be as big of a thing, but then live shows were definitely because with Ableton now you can do live shows with any musicians and I think it's think about it in this aspect, right? When you go to a live show, you want to experience something different, right? Like say if you look at your favorite rapper perform, he's not all the time is just gonna have one DJ playing the backing beat and the person rapping, right? You know what I mean? It's gonna be a drummer, a full violin, a string set or guitarist or whatever, that live elements. I think what they are is that they are not just moving into a festival direction, but they are moving into a concert direction,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's
Totally
the
understand.
difference. Yeah.
It's like the Kendrick Lamar latest concert.
Yeah.
You know, he came up, he just playing a piano, tung, tung, and then he start rapping to his a cappella solo piano. Then when he end already, then the actual song come in. So he's not just playing humble, you know, it's like a live edit. Like kind of like bring something new to the table.
Yeah.
And then talking about live, you also did the orchestra thing, right? Yeah. So how did that even like begin? Like how did you like start the conversation?
Oh, conversation. I think conversation began in 2010 when I did turntable instrumentalist. I don't know how many of you guys remember, but it was very long ago, right? So I got invited to perform at a recital studio. That was also Esplanade Theatre start to embrace more local talent, and I was the first local talent to sold out the show. And probably it wasn't a lot. It was only like 240 seater or something, right? But at that point, when I did it, when I finished the show, it was quite well received, right? Then I think one of the producer asked me, "What would you like to do next?" I was like, "Oh, I'd love to play with an orchestra." Right, but obviously I never knew how to, you know.
I mean, when you told the idea, did the person say like, huh, what? Like,
Yeah. So the first video that I watched where there was a turntablist and an orchestra was DJ Radar. He was doing scratch drumming, and then you know the whole orchestra were accompanying it. I thought that was so cool. That was like, you know, it'll be like one of a kind show that you don't get every day, right? And I think 7 years down the road, the producer called me back. He's like, "Hey, you know what? I think you are ready." I was like, "Oh, ready about what?" It's like, I have this show where I need to incorporate. Yeah, we need you to incorporate with the orchestra to give students interest in what classical music is again. So I was like, okay, that sounds like something I would love to do, because at that point I was doing NAC as well, which is a National Arts Council program for like going to assembly to talk about your craft, right? So I constantly I went in to talk about DJing and blah blah, and that's where kids got really interested. And I think there was a lot of feedback where the school module has to change to interest these students again. So that's where this whole show came about. It was really a live show and also learning about the instruments on stage.
the rehearsals for it, like, how was it?
Wow, I tell you, it's super
Do you have
amazing.
like stage fright when it comes to the actual day of performing?
I think it's very different when you DJ at clubs. Right? DJ clubs, you're so used to it, but then suddenly when you combine it with orchestra,
Actually, it wasn't. It was like I felt more relaxed. I felt more in my zone than anything else, honestly, because I knew it was something that I was good at, and it was something that I was doing for 17 years. Yes, I was nervous, but I know the orchestra got my back, right? And to be honest, when I did a show with you guys at the SMU Green where we have 12 turntablists,
Oh,
right? So remember how many times we have to rehearse? We have to rehearse like
every week, yeah.
20 overtimes
Yeah.
over
Months.
a period, right? Months. I have to produce the songs, and then you guys perform it.
Yeah.
That's because we don't know how to read scale and musical notes. And guess how many times I rehearsed with the orchestra?
I don't know.
One time.
damn, that's
Insane.
the orchestra had like 40,
80
people.
Right. One time.
Damn.
Okay.
What the?
God mode, bro.
So it's like they read the note, they knew exactly where they are, they knew exactly when to play. Right? They're all professionals. And when I came in, okay, so before the show, they gave everyone the notes, including myself. I was like, I don't know how to read Taugeh, bro.
This is what people call, musical notes.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I don't know how to read Taugeh. All I do was I memorized the bars. That's all I did. So I memorized all the bars that I need to. I knew exactly where I need to go, and they knew exactly what they were doing. One rehearsal for less than 20-30 minutes, I would say. First song went bum bum. I'm like, okay, and then the conductor was right there. It's like, change this part. I was like, okay. And then all I did was just, I remember the timing of the song, and then that's it. And then hours later, we were performing the song. Yeah, straight away.
Oh,
Yeah.
it must be very exhausting, you know, like suddenly, you know, during the rehearsal, sometimes they have to make slight changes into their routines and stuff
but
like that.
that's fine. Like it wasn't as technical as a turntablism set, to be honest. Like if you go on to DMC and you have 6 minutes or 3 minutes or even 1 minute, you're actually doing a lot of things, right? And honestly, the orchestra segment, the things that I did was all the post production. Like produced the song, I did the mix, sent it to the orchestra, right? And when I was doing it, I wasn't really doing a lot. It was really 10% of what I usually would do in a turntablism set. And that's why I think I read a comment when I posted. It was like, oh, DJ is not doing much, just scratching. I'm like, if I did everything, what would the orchestra play?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You get what I mean? No, it's all about. You see, the thing with turntablism and the thing with DJing, a lot of people are very individualistic.
Yep.
You get what I mean? It was like, you know, it's me, it's my show, you know. But when we come to a band, it's not about you. It's about everyone else and how this whole piece is being presented. It's like a team game. You get what I mean? And I have always been in a band. With like back then with Chou Pi Jiang, with the jazz band and stuff like that. It was never about me. Everybody has that little moment to shine, right? And that's what is the beauty of music, actually. You know.
In an orchestra, even the triangle has a role inside. Just one ding that
Can you imagine if you screw up?
you string up the ding on it.
Actually, 2-1, then the fella stun there.
So it was funny because after the show, and then they had this thing called the Turntable Orchestra in Dubai, with Shortcut and D Styles were conducting the whole thing, right? And he asked me about my show. It was like, how do you go and stuff like that. I was like, you know, I did one rehearsal. And same thing. They did plenty of rehearsal because, you know, you're putting like 40 individuals for the first time playing in a band. Everybody wants to, wow, you know, but it disrupts the song. You know, you in the orchestra is like, okay, you stay quiet until the point you need to go in. You know what I mean? But DJs are not like that.
Yeah. I guess because DJs, you are like a one-man band, you know, you play the whole song and one song consists of multiple layers, but now you are a band, you are one instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to think about it differently lah.
Yeah.
I think also being in the orchestra, I mean, you are trained to work in the group, right, for quite long already. So I think this kind of thing comes second nature lah, I guess. Yeah.
Did the organizers tell you to wear a tuxedo or
No,
a suit and tie?
Like
Imagine
everyone was in tuxedo. Only me, I was like in a sweater, and like they just wanted that diversity of style, you know. Yeah.
How would you see yourself if they were told you it's mandatory for you to wear a tuxedo?
I would have no qualms about it. Like, cause if that was a way for me to present the turntable as a musical instrument, then so be it. I'll just wear it.
I mean, DJ Radar is the first that do it. He's in a tuxedo, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So I guess it's about presenting the art lah.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking about hip hop music, right, where you first established this is your interest, this is something that you want to pursue, and now it's been 24 years and you are still going strong on hip hop. And how do you view the state of hip hop now, especially in Singapore? Do you have to like incorporate some electronic elements for it to be more pumpy so you can keep people on the dance floor?
I guess it depends on where you're playing. If you're playing in a club, yes, I believe some sweaty dance floor, you know,
Sweaty,
big, like
sweaty, grimy,
808, yeah, sound would really help. Yeah, and honestly, even back then in Solid Gold, right, like if we have to do it in Velvet or have to do it at Zouk, there's always an incorporation of like trap or even electronic music. Reason being, I don't think it's not so much about having to incorporate it. It's more like this is the evolution of hip hop, and why can't we play it? You get what I mean? And I think a lot of people don't understand. It's like, especially sometimes very die-hard hip-hop fans. They are at the dance floor and like, oh, why is Koflow playing this electronic? Why is he playing Yellow Claw or anything? But that's the truth. The truth is, it's an evolution and it's part of it. What you like is not hip hop. What you like is rap music. That's the difference. You get what I mean? Like my blend of hip hop has always been anything that influenced hip hop and anything that hip hop had influenced. So meaning it's across the board from breaks to funk soul to disco to reggae to dance hall to trap music to future beats to house music. It's like an open form of hip hop, right? Which is true to the authentic style of what hip hop is back in the 70s, because there wasn't hip hop back in the 70s. It was cutting out disco beats, funk beats, and that's what it is,
The other time you told me this, right, and I find it's quite interesting. You say that Uptown Funk is more hip hop than a lot of the festival trap kind of stuff. It's more closely related, it's a closer relative. So it kind of got me thinking also about like what hip hop actually is, and also some of the very narrow-minded thinking of the audience or some DJs, right, that, oh, this is not real hip hop or whatever. But I guess hip hop has a spectrum and there's like a subgroup. Same for like house music also has its own subgroup.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me, dubstep is also part of what hip hop can be, right? So, I mean, if you listen to Rumble right now, right?
Yes.
It's sort of a deviation of hip hop and dubstep as well, right? So I don't see that as a, I guess when you're new to the genre, then you're like, oh, why is he not playing hip hop? But the truth is, it is what it is, and I think. Back then when it comes to even our own rappers in Singapore, right, it's the same thing. Like, this is what I explained to them, and I think it takes a period of time before they actually caught on and understand, right? You don't need to necessarily put out a trap orientated hip hop beat to make a rap song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and speaking of hip hop, right, one very what you call that? Like very significant or one very notable thing. Yes, one very notable thing about hip hop is the beef. Okay, the beef of hip hop. So last time hip hop, right, is all about beef marketing and kind of thing lah. But in Singapore, it's like such a small country, right? It's definitely not lucrative to beef. Yeah. But like there's still people out there that's like trying to do that. And what's your take on this? And versus like overseas beef, like Drake and Meek Mill's kind of beef. Yeah, local beef versus grass-fed beef.
Bro, like the difference really is like local one, right? I mean, in America, right, you gun all, bro. Here, you want to beef, you want to take what, bro?
I storm you.
Yeah, it's like
Mothership you.
yeah, mothership you, right? I make TikTok about you, bro.
Yeah.
Trend.
I guess back then there's the rappers do have some, I wouldn't say beef, it was like just differences, right? Wow, I'm more real than you, you're more real than me, whatsoever. But at the end of the day, we are just making music and having fun, bro.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, like, I think at one point when the East versus West thing in the time, it got to a point where both legends died, and then that's where everything started to like, oh shit, kind of thing. So, like, I felt the beef was, I think, that time. They reached the point where they knew it was unnecessary, but people still do it for, shock value. Is it? I guess.
I guess like overseas more manufactured lah.
I think you can also put it in a way where most of them come from poverty.
Yeah.
Right, and they probably felt like there's something to lose, right? And in Singapore, what do you really have to lose? I guess that comes down to how hard you fight for your life and your career. You know what I mean?
So, like, do you think that that's actually sort of a problem for like artists, in Singapore? Like, they don't have that sort of like battle that other people from other countries have in order for them to push for, their art and everything.
I just think that locally, a lot of people are very comfortable. I think it's important to know that being an artist, right? Like there's always well, not being an artist, like pursuing an art form, there's always three type, right? A is you do it for hobby. B is that you do it as a job. As a job meaning resident DJ, resident band, right? And then three is you are actually doing as a career as an artist, right? And a lot of people blur between second and third one, right? But the truth is, it's important to know that, you know, if you are in a bar, right, and you're performing music, but you're covering someone else's music, and when someone cheer for you, yes, you might have a good voice, but what it is that they are actually fan of the person that you have covered more than you.
Yeah.
Right? That to me is more of a job, and you have to look for a way to get out of that comfort zone and do more to market your personality, your voice, your song, right?
That's so very true.
Then you come to the point where you're an artist, right? So being an artist, I think it's important to eat, sleep, and only do what you are doing to be good at what you are doing, right? When you have so much distraction like day job and all that, right? You in the end you're just gonna take more time to come to the point where you want to be, but and there's only 1% or 0.001% that of people that actually get to that point with having a day job, right? But not saying that when you don't have a day job, you definitely get there, but it's also the same thing. It's only that 0.001%, right? And the thing is, when you are so comfortable that you know, when I don't make money as an artist and when I get home, there's food on the table, then I guess you will not think as hard of how are you going to achieve your goal of actually putting real food on the table bought by yourself.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Two very important points. Like for example, if you are like residenting in a big club, right? You don't know who came for you, who came for the music that you play, or who came for the club. Yeah, it's a very blurred line. And then second thing is like if you have a day job or other distraction, right? You cannot be the best version of yourself, lah. I mean, there's only one Drake, there's only one Lil Yachty, you know. And in order to be in that position, you really have to be the 1%er or the 0.001%er, lah. Yeah, it's so damn difficult.
And it's funny, right? Like coming back to back then when I joined DMC, I was the guy that saw that as a musical instrument, because as a kid I was always going to jamming studio, jamming my friends, right? And then I wasn't that guy that went to a club and saw a DJ play and this DJ play and then so many people was dancing and worshiping him and then girls everywhere. I wasn't that guy, you know. So when I won DMC, and that's your ticket to play in the club, right? And then to me, I was like, no, I don't want to be a resident DJ. I want to be an artist, you know. And that's not what I want to do. I want to be that person. When I DJ, everybody came here because I want to see this guy DJ. You know what I mean? And it took me a long time, honestly. It took me like 10 over years to get there, right? But if you ask me if it's worth it and did I achieve my goal, yes, I did, right? And if your goal is, you know, playing and DJing as a club DJ only, then I think your career is very short-lived, because I think we do understand that by 10 years, 20 years down the road, where are you going?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can continue to DJ. Nobody will know you. You will probably be playing at Orchard Tower, that sort of club, or somewhere, and then
So gloom.
it is what it is. You know what I mean?
I mean, there are younger and more fresh faces, and then they might pick
correct.
them over you.
Yeah, and I think I've been through this often enough. And when Facebook came about, you know, you see all these old DJs complaining about young DJs undercutting and all that. But the truth is,
They're hungry, you know.
the truth is, dude, they are not undercutting. They are doing exactly the same thing as what you did when you were younger. It's just that now you have 20 years of experience. You think that you deserve more. But the thing is, did you work hard enough to deserve more? If you have actually reached your goal, you wouldn't think that anyone is undercutting you already. You know what I mean?
Correct. You can demand your rates because
Exactly.
you have developed a brand around yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I want to ask also, right? Because just now you brought a point about like, you know, like sort of like being an artist, right? Do you feel like sometimes, like even a DJ, right? Even though he plays other people's songs, can he artistically express himself as an artist himself?
Yes and no, of course. You know, like of course, you know, like I've also come across a lot of young DJs who suddenly people think that they're very good, right? And then I also have a question to them is that did you ever had a self-realization moment where you decide and you ask yourself, was I very good because I was playing all the cheesy songs that they like? Or was it because I'm playing songs so well that they like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think those are the questions that you have to see, ask yourself. This is situational, right? Right? So then there are DJs who can put together all this song, but at the same time, you know, remixing it on the fly, chopping it up and cutting it up. And not to say they're not doing how do you say? Not to say that they are, well, I guess, you know, in a way, we have to be slightly cheesier to make people understand. You know what I mean? The craft that we are doing on the turntable, just to have the crowd relate to you. You know what I mean? But doesn't mean you are a bad DJ if people don't like it. It's just that, you know, as the understanding and your connection with the crowd might not be as what you think you want to achieve, right?
I guess it's something like beat juggling with a known song. Like you take Thrift Shop and then you beat juggle, and then as the audience hear the beat juggling happening, right, they can kind of visualize better rather than you do super technical like cue point stuff that they cannot connect. And then, you know, both are equally technical, but then one can make the audience go crazy lah. So you still need to like kind of like be a bit relevant also. So I want to talk a little bit about like hip hop, right? Your journey in hip hop. So when you like hip hop at that era, right? Hip hop was popping, and then after that, right? There's a period where EDM took over for 5 years. You are still doing hip hop, and then after that EDM died down, hip hop come back up. You are still doing hip hop, and you kind of like reap the benefits lah. So like how would you like advise the new generation to just do what you love, despite whether you can make a lot of money or make very little money?
I don't know if that's a relevant question to answer you in a politically correct way, because
just shoot, no need no need to worry, bro.
Because in my own way of dealing with it was that, again, you know, I have explained to you, like by the time that I won DMC, I have never wanted to be a resident DJ. All I wanted was to, you know, scratch and make a living out of it. Obviously, that's a bit far-fetched also, right? I have to do a bit of balance of like what, you know, DJing, giving people what they want, you know. And when EDM came about, when it came, all the hip-hop DJs in Singapore
Become EDM DJs.
You're right. If you don't play EDM, sorry, you're not gonna make a living, right? You're out. And for me, it was like, well, this is the best time. I can just scratch for a living, you know. So you know, like I forgot about DJing. I was like, forget about it, you know. Like I just went to Blue Jazz all day, and I just went to scratch with the jazz band every weekend, right? And for that 2-3 years, I lived off only through live shows, you know. And that's all I did. Either I did a showcase, scratching, or I play with my jazz band, and that's really about it. I lived the poor musician lifestyle for a long time, right? And that gave me more fire, I guess, you know. And I decided to start throwing my own party. That's where Solid Gold came about.
Started from Blue Jazz.
Yeah, I
Evolve.
went to Blue Jazz, and then there was still a crowd, but it was very underground, right? I don't think I can make a comfortable living for sure, you know. But eventually, by 2014, I think I saw the wave. I think hip hop was coming back, and I think throughout that 4 years, between 2010 to 2014, I was seen as a underground movement, and there were hip hop dancers, rappers all following our movement, and that's the only place to do a networking with a whole hip hop crowd, right? So 2014, I saw the opportunity of Velvet not doing well. Zouk at Velvet was it was like literally sometimes only 10 people in there, you know, and everybody was lost. I didn't know what to do. Everybody working with Zouk was so lost as of what they should do with Velvet, because strangely, well, I think Future was actually the mecca of hip hop during 2000 era. At 2010, they had to take the bandwagon,
Change to EDM.
change to EDM all the way, and that created an empty void where
The hip hop crowd don't know where to go.
yeah, right. So and then I think I called up Wayne one day. I was like, can we sit down and have a chat?
GM of Zouk.
Yeah. So I had a chat with him. I was like, bro, I think you gotta believe me, and I'm gonna bring this back, right? And we did. We started from once a month. And that once a month, I achieved my goal again. It was that people went there because they wanted to see Koflow play. And Velvet was literally from the first night that I was there, I have outgrown the place in
Matter of months.
200 to 300%, right? It was 700-800 people squeezing in there. Everybody wants to get into that room.
I remember going to Solid Go there, like, to like one dance, so I had to like, I cannot move my body. You know?
And I feel like Solid Go has its own ecosystem. I was the regular opening DJ for Solid Go, right? And you really have to play to the dancers and then get them started. And then the regular people very shy, and then they will come in because the dancers are like happening.
Yeah. So the dancers created a very good ecosystem with me as well. What it is that I can play super underground track, or I can play even James Brown, you know, and when they go, yeah, the regular crowd were like, what's going
What?
on? What is this song? How come I don't know this song?
Yes.
You get what I mean? I thought this is, you know, I'm supposed to be at a hip hop gig, but why are they playing this song? They all had that curiosity, and that grew. You get what I mean? And I think that was the best bit of Solid Go, really. Yeah. And of course, you know, within 2-3 months, we outgrown the place, and then they're like, oh, why don't you do the main room now? I was like, okay. I went to the main room. The queue was all the way to the river already. Yeah, and then I think we packed out the place like crazy, and from there on, it was no stopping us. It was like literally a good run of like 3-4 years until they moved to
Zouk Clarke Quay.
Yeah, Zouk Clarke Quay. Yeah.
And then what's the story with Solid Go right now? What's the plans for the next Solid Go?
I think Solid Go I think what it is, it's like Solid Go had grown up with me in a way where I have so many kids that come up to me and like, or maybe not kids anymore. They're also grown up. They're so grown up now.
I was one of the kids.
Yeah. They're also grown up now. They're like, hey, you know, back then you played at Liquid Room. We were there. You know what I mean? And then I was like, okay. And then now it's happening again with Solid Go, right? There's a lot of people who had very fond memory. There was like their first few club nights that they go to that they had so much fun, and that stayed with them for a long time, right? And then now Solid Go, we keep it small, we keep it a little bit more underground, but we bring in more quality acts. So in January we had one Solid Go with DJ Shortcut.
Turntablists.
At Joe at Honcho, which is on my Honcho's rooftop. And that turnout was super crazy. It was like 200 plus packs, and I wasn't really expecting that because
Fully packed, man.
yeah, I was thinking of like, oh man, I haven't done it for so long, right? So, but then again, I think that brand itself has been a brand embedded in the industry where there's actually a lot of people who remember Solid Go, and they will turn up. regardless of which guest DJ is playing actually. Yeah.
And I think the Solid Gold has a very solid partnership with Radical Force Dance Crew.
Yeah.
And then their, Radical Force Dance Crew has their RF Jam, Radical Force Jam,
Yeah.
which is like the biggest dance festival in the whole Asia. Yeah. And then Solid Gold brand being tied to that is also another big push.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that y'all did was also like one solid night, which is with Eldrin.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's like the merging of the two house and the hip hop.
Eldrin was also part of Radical Force. If you don't know Eldrin, in 1998 he was a b-boy. Yeah, and then he went on to play house. As I said, it's a music that consists of many subgenres in the pocket of it, right? And to today, it was probably the only music that has a culture left, right? And Eldrin was part of it for sure, and I was part of it. I'm a official Radical Force DJ as well, right? And playing breaks, learning how to DJ hip hop, being a turntablist, it was all part of the movement. Really, it was just one big movement together. And that one solid night was us bring everything that we know, part of the hip hop movement together. But we didn't. I think we were too ambitious at that point. We didn't do like superbly well, and I think location was another issue. Was that there wasn't enough ventilation in there. There was just too many people who were like sweating and not being able to handle the heat in there, right? But other than that, it is definitely another festival that I want to look into where I can bring together all these different elements and spread the culture as well.
Yeah, I think that is like part and parcel of growing and having a 360 brand to yourself. Like you're speaking about like being an artist, not a DJ, just or like a music player. People come for you, and then now you have achieved the next level. Is you have your own venue, which is Honcho lah. So speak a little bit about Honcho, which is like your bar, your concept, your venue.
On the ground floor is like a dinner omakase place, and the basement we have like our speakeasy bespoke cocktail. But now we do throw parties occasionally with different promoters. And then the rooftop is like a free and easy bar where we throw parties every Friday and Saturday. And speaking about which we didn't touch on, is that when we play at the club, we have to play some dirty bass centric to accompany it. But at the rooftop of Honcho, which is a little bit more open and a bit more like friendlier vibe, we don't touch on like bass music that much, but we do like organic hip hop, and that always get the people going as well. And we can play some funk and it was just a full on vibe. And yeah.
So what's the regular programming like at Honcho? Like you open almost every day, right?
Yeah, open every day. Basically, I think most people come in and dine with us, and then they go to the rooftop and have their drinks. We only have programmings on Friday and Saturday. Friday, DJ on Rev plays, and then Saturday I play, usually from 9:30 to 12 o'clock, which is something I always want to do, is that I want to attract people to come in pre-drink before they go to the party, because I didn't want to deal with like rowdy crowd. I didn't want to deal with like late nights, and for people to start dancing at 10:30 to about 12 o'clock, I think it was something that it's very rarely seen in Singapore, and if there is a possibility, I think a lot of bars wants to achieve that, but they couldn't, I guess, because their choice of music that is being played.
Yeah. I think a little bit more melodic, easy to the ears, minimal, not so heavy.
Yeah, I think that works lah. I think I went to a bar, I don't know which bar I went to at 10:30. They whacking hardstyle, bro. Even I have so headache, bro. Like 10:30, bro, I cannot, yeah.
So I think this is another interesting factor, right? Music is so important in our life that we don't actually realize, because it plays into all the spaces.
Right, yeah.
It plays into time. At what time you're playing a certain song, whether you work or not. Certain songs are just not meant to be played at early hours.
Yes,
And I think a lot of people don't really understand that, right? And
Like certain songs cannot play when you are sober, certain songs cannot play when you are drunk, maybe.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, time and space is the most important thing when it comes to music, and I think we can take a lot out of it, right? Like, you know, even when I produce any song, right, it's always about the time and space. Like, what time do I think, you know, I want people to listen to those songs? Like a lot of songs that I produced, the later part was to accompany people on their bus rides, you know, or transport. You know what I mean? And certain songs were like, I produced for me to play in the club. You know what I mean? You know.
Then what are the plans for Honcho coming up? Any expansion plans?
I think Honcho is really, we are just working on a brand, and eventually we want to see how far we can take it, and open up different branches. So far our food review has been really good, so we might want to open up different branches of like small Honcho pop-ups, but for food only, right? And I am also looking into trying to open a club by end of the year or next year. But we'll see. Like, I think finding a space is the most difficult part in Singapore to run a nightclub, right? So a lot of time I go into a venue and I was like, oh, I want to run a club. Everyone's like, nightclub? I'm like, technically yes, nightclub, but no hostess, you know, dance club, you know. But these older people who owns the venue, they don't understand that. They think club means, oh, you're opening a Thai disco. No, I don't want a Thai disco. It's rowdy. People are gonna fight. I'm like, dude, I'm not opening a Thai disco.
Yeah, and I guess now you as a club owner, you see it from the business perspective also.
Yeah, for sure.
Like how you gonna balance making money at the same time, like the artistic integrity lah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's not so important to me about artistic integrity now, as a business owner, because I think, you know, certain place, it's meant to play what the people want to hear. There's certain place that you create is for people to explore and learn, and also education at the same time. That's where you create institution. Why Zouk was an institution back then was because they are a place where you go, you explore, and you're educated with new music. But right now, probably is not the case. Is really like giving people what they want. I need to fill up the space, right? So one way or another, you know, being in a business is that I have to juggle between
Surviving and being an
creating
institution.
something for the scene,
And giving people what they want.
giving people what they want, and keeping my shareholders happy because they are actually not losing money. Yeah, I mean, I think these are a balance that we all have to look at. Yeah. Not easy, not easy. Yeah.
Because we were asking, we had Andrew T the previous episode, then we were asking him about the rise of some tunes also, and he said like, you know, like everything is just changing. But do you think it's a cycle? Like right now, is it a cycle that will end, or do you think it's like all the way?
I think it's a cycle that will end. The reason being is that but let's face the fact, if you're attracting audience from Thai disco, then you're attracting the wrong audience for your music, right? So there's always a more mature, educated crowd who love their music and understand their music, and those are the people that you should be targeting and catering to. Yeah.
And then earlier we were speaking about like the takeovers of the small clubs, right? The more bar-ish vibes or smaller clubs in general. Do you see this also like being a trend where like big clubs are charging prices that like a lot of people cannot afford? Yeah, like $100 entry kind of thing versus like smaller joints that are doing like $25 entry. And also like the level of act lah, you know?
I think there's always it's a ecosystem again, right? There's always smaller club and less pretentious. You play what you want. You create a movement, and then at some point, this movement will get picked up, and the big clubs will commercialize it. right? So this is a whole ecosystem. Just like rap music. When an artist release their music, where is it being played? It's being played in a strip club before it goes commercialized. Just like trap music. Trap music was played in small little clubs, small dark little clubs, and then it got picked up by more commercial artists, and then eventually Beyonce took it, and then she produced 7-Eleven,
Yep.
and that's where trap got big, right? And then everything just went into more commercial club, and a smaller club is a product of its own, right? There were always people who would jump onto the bandwagon, or people who are not so in depth into the artistic movement, but maybe they like music, or maybe they just want to have fun, right? So those were people will always be attracted to the bigger clubs because I walked in, it just amazes me. It gives me adrenaline that I never had before, compared to going to a smaller club where lightings are not that much, decor are not that much, but the music is great, but I don't know the music. You know what I mean? You know.
Okay, so maybe we can close this off by maybe you can give us some advice for the younger up and coming DJs. What should they do? How should they view this landscape of DJing? How can they traverse it so that they don't drop into traps or failures so often?
I think I'm a bad person at giving this sort of advice.
I mean, you just do what you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's I always follow my instinct, and I follow my heart into what I want to do, right? And I think the biggest obstacle when I was growing up as a kid was that nobody knew what DJing was, and nobody knew what turntablism was, and every parents will stop you from doing what you actually wanted to do. The first person that you have to rebel against is your parents. And if you have a very supporting parents, I think you're super lucky, and you should try even harder to achieve your goal, right? And if you fail, then I think it's really wasted, because your parents are really supporting and behind your back, right? And for those parents who don't really support what you do, I know it's hard, but I think it's something that eventually you will reap the benefit if you know how to balance between speaking to your parents and convincing them. The most important thing is to be able to find your feet and support yourself by all means, and convince your parents along the way, right? The same thing with me was I do have the same thing, right? Is that my dad will always go get a real job. You're only making $400, you're only making $800. I can't pay rent. I can't do this. I can't do that. I felt really stupid, right? But what changes and what helped me is when I decided to just rent a place. When I rent a place, I have no choice. I have to pay rent. And that's where I need to hustle even harder. And that's where I learn to hustle, right? So I think, I don't know if it's a good advice to you, but maybe you should try it.
Rebel against your parents.
No, not exactly that, but yeah.
I will say just basically don't give up and believe in yourself. You really must have a very strong belief on yourself.
Willpower, basically. Willpower.
Yeah, I think perseverance is important. The most important thing is that what you all don't understand about branding is that you have to do it long enough until people know what you're doing.
Consistency.
Right? So it took me a long time. It took me 10 years. That's also because I don't have social media. I don't have the luxury of promoting myself like how you guys do today. And I think you should make use of that. And today I see a lot of artists making money within less than 2 years compared to me, 10 years. I have to work 10 years as an artist to finally tell myself, oh, I can see 100,000 in my bank every year. which is not easy to reach that goal. And I believe you can do it right now. Yeah.
On that note, like since you have mentioned over the years of struggles that you have to go through, I think the most important thing for even younger DJs like us as well, creating a new movement like Revelry, or even those DJs outside trying to grow, make themselves look bigger, they for sure seen their fair share of failure. So I think probably the most important thing is what's your routine back then to constantly remain positive, you know, like to never give up. Because never giving up is just a very generic term, you know.
Yeah, I think, you know, take that failure as lessons. I think that's what everybody tells you, right? And most important thing is really do that. And don't be afraid of being that person late in the game. You know, what I think the temptation of this game is that your achievement is that you actually want to be an artist. Then go really work on it and research how to be an artist. The temptation is that I can have an easy way out of being a club DJ. And once you see your friends having fun within 1 or 2 years, wow, he's playing a big club, and why am I not? And once you join that, your route actually became a little bit more, slightly tougher to be an artist. But you might take like 4 or 5 years before you reach there. I think a good example is Wukong, Alfie. You know, when he came to me, when we talk about things, and then when I taught him how to DJ, you know, he was never that. He knows he wants to play out, but he was willing to work on his craft for many years. Like I think, just like I think we have never heard him DJ in a club as a resident DJ before he blew up.
Yep.
Right? Suddenly, all of a sudden, he blew up. That's because he didn't take on that temptation. I think that's a very good example, right? And yeah, with that note, look at every DJ's career path and take that as an example and ask yourself, where do you want to lead yourself into? Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
That's a wrap.